Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of True Crime with Sarge. I'm your host, Joseph Jacqueline, and with us today, retired NYPD detective Michael Alcazar. Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
How are you, sir? How are you, my friend?
Pretty good. Talk about a shocking development out of Idaho with this Bryan Kohberger case. I got totally flattened by it. What was your first, experience when you heard about that?
I wasn't. I was a little disappointed. I think everybody is, but I wasn't surprised that he accepted a plea deal or that a plea deal was offered. We've seen that happen a million times when we've gone to court. So, I guess from a enforcement perspective, I wasn't shocked.
Yeah, no, listen, I want to get into with you some of the evidence that we do know, the leaks of the new evidence that came out, because a number of things probably pushed this on. We know that the prosecutor likes to do these kind of things. So, for instance, Mike, I think the public, and this is one of the first things that kind of came to my mind when I heard it. I said, the public is getting a little bit of taste in regards to how cops feel when they're building a case against somebody, and then only for the district attorney to basically pull the carpet out from under your feet and say, "All right, well, we're pleading down the case, or we're going to plea it out," and I think that's exactly what happened here. What do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah. When you're investigating a case, especially like a homicide or a quadruple homicide, I'm sure the investigators in this investigation were heavily invested and probably emotional, right? Talking, working with the families, the surviving victims, and then, like you said, for it to be plead down, it's kind of like a stab in the heart because, pardon the pun, but it's sad. You want this guy prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And I think a lot of people wanted him to get the death penalty. And for him to take this plea deal is kind of like taking the sting out of it. So, or I
Right.
should say, not making it less rewarding. It's sad. It's sad because I know some of the family, especially the Gonsalves family, was very vocal about it, that they were disappointed. I don't know about the other families. I don't know how they
Yeah.
feel about it. So
Well, the father of Maddie Mogan talked to CBS News, and he was actually for it, and cited a lot of the reasons why these plea deals do come out in regards to this thing. We're going to get into that in a second. But the question, I guess, is on everybody's mind is, does Kaylee Gonzalez, Goncalves, Ethan Chapin, Maddie Mogan, and Zaina Kernoodle, do you think this is justice for them by him taking this plea?
no, justice for this guy is to be executed by firing squad. I think everyone can agree to that. This is the most horrific crime that's happened probably in this century. Um, I get it. Some people are, pro death penalty and against the death penalty, but just the nature of this crime. I think everyone wants this guy out of this planet forever.
Yeah, no, I just want to welcome Michelle Adams. Thank you for joining the membership there. Appreciate that. There are a number of things that went through my mind as part of this. And I think the first thing that came to my mind is, like you said, it's a death penalty case, which makes it 10 times harder to prosecute in some of these things. You know, does the district attorney have the stomach for it, right? We don't know how people feel about this. Remember, if you're the prosecutor and you're sending somebody to death, that's going to weigh on your consciousness too. And that could be another reason why this plea deal was offered.
Um, perhaps it comes into play. Um, I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to respond to that because I
Yeah.
know a lot of
Well,
police officers. If we arrested somebody, we want to prosecute it. I don't think we care if they get the death penalty if they deserved it, right? If they were convicted and, like in this case, overwhelming evidence, says that he's the person that did it. Just this case I feel like this case had a lot of evidence against him,
oh yeah.
and I think Kohberger, because he's a criminal justice student, he was probably just stalling and stalling. I heard he was a bit of a pain in the ass for his defense attorneys. So he was stalling and stalling. I think the defense probably felt like they couldn't win this. And when, it was getting to crunch time, they just said, listen, you're going to get the death penalty. We got to have to make a decision. And I think that's what it is. He's a coward to the very end. And his goal is to preserve his life. He Maybe he was going to play the game. Maybe he thought there was a possibility he wasn't going to get convicted, but at the very end, I think his sphincter puckered up and he said, okay, let's take the plea deal.
Gizela has entered the chat in Grizzly True Crime, and all the Grizzlies welcome. Yeah,
Hi,
Mike.
Gisela.
Yeah, Mike. You know what though? I mean, yeah, this was a cowardly move by him. With all the different alibi thing. I went to the park. I'm stargazing. I got a witness. Remember all that stuff? And then just recently about putting forward potential suspects, and then all of a sudden doing a 180 and saying, "Okay, I'm guilty." Uh, and listen, you have to give the defense credit because they kind of do what the number one rule is: keep your guy out of court, right? I mean, that's basically what you're doing. And when you think about it, and this might be an unpopular opinion, I'm actually for the plea deal because it doesn't put the family through decades of trauma, because that's what these death penalty cases are. It's just not okay, you're getting the death penalty. It's the appeal after appeal after appeal. I mean, this thing could not go to an execution in 20 years, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And so I'm actually all for it. The only thing that I'm a little concerned about is that some of the family members so far has said that they didn't know about the plea deal. To me, that's a bad move if that's true.
I hope that's not the case. I would think they were part of the conversation before they made this decision. If they weren't, that's definitely a failure on the prosecution's part. But I agree with you. Like, death penalty cases go through appeal processes, and statistically, like you said, some of them go probably on the average 20 years, 2 decades before they're finally executed. Some go 30, 40 years. So it would have been, it's not like if he got the death penalty, he would have been executed this year or next year. So it would still take a long time. And again, it's going to cost a lot of money for the courts and the appeal process. So I was thinking, could that be, and they'll never admit it, right? Could it be financially motivated, right? And we just saw what happened with Karen Reed with the retrial. I think that went over like 700 grand. So I'm just thinking the courts in Idaho think that, maybe we don't want to go through that. And, this is a win. We're going to prosecute him. He's going to go away forever. Yeah, he's not going to get the death penalty, but maybe they weren't sure if they're going to get the death penalty anyway, right? So they were going to go through the mitigation phase, even if he was convicted. So it's a lot of moving parts. Did I say farts? Not moving farts. Moving parts, and a lot of things to consider.
Well, I mean, listen, I think that he gets 4 consecutive life sentences. That means one after another, which means if there is something life after death, they got him for the next couple of lives. The second part of this is he is going to live in hell. He will never be able to go outside. He is going to be stuck in that 5x9 room for the next 50, 60 years. And he's going to be under protective custody, under the watchful eye of, hopefully under the watchful eye for his sake, right? But I think
what do you mean? What do you mean protected custody? He's not going in Gen Pop. He's not going to be.
He will not go to Gen Pop. He'll ask for it. You can ask for the protective custody, and they're forced to take you in. But the issue that comes down to is he's going to be living in absolute hell, and I think he'll be wishing that the death penalty was still on the table about a month into this.
Hey, listen, somebody said it. I saw somebody saying this in one of the interviews, right? This guy is a criminal justice student, right? He liked interviewing prisoners. He's got like a lifetime's worth of interview. Somebody even said he could probably continue his education, And another thing about just going to prison, I think I looked it up. There's about 23 serial killers that were killed in prison. So is there a possibility that somebody's going to take him out in prison? Dahmer was one of them that just he got whacked. So, you're right. It's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be.
Bulger was another one.
Yeah, it's going to torture him mentally. Yeah. I mean, I don't feel sorry for him at all.
No, what I do like about the plea is that he cannot appeal it. So there'll be no appeals. There'll be no parole, no chance of parole. And apparently they're writing it in there that even if the law changes down the road, there's no parole for him. Because California did this a long time ago. They did, no parole. And then all of a sudden they redid all the laws. and said, okay, everybody who didn't have parole, you can get it now. So I
Mm.
believe that that becomes an issue. But you know what? The money, Mike, I think is always number one. The money's always the financial cost of this. Remember, we're talking about small towns here. We're talking about lots of money. And you know what? I don't think they could afford a Karen Reed type trial where you have people outside and the cost of doing that. And this was to be televised too, and you'd have people outside the courtroom. I mean, all those things I think might play a role. I don't know for sure, just me guessing. But let's go through some of the evidence that they do have. I thought they had plenty of evidence, and I always thought they had the right guy. I was concerned though about a couple of things, specifically the crime scene. Maybe the defense attorney looked at some of these things, Mike, and said, listen, we got a good case, we don't have a great case, and that could be helping in that decision also.
Yeah. I mean, I think the prosecution had enough evidence to convict this guy. I did hear that because they leaked some of the his video, that they might have problems maybe getting an unbiased jury pool. So maybe that also came into play, right? Because everyone's heard of this case. Who hasn't heard of this case? Who hasn't read it somewhere? And they figured that might influence people that potentially could be in the jury. So, lots of moving parts, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I mean the leaks were good and bad, right? The leaks for the public point of view was good because we learned that there was a lot more evidence in this case than we were led to believe, right? I mean, up until this point, we only had heard about the DNA on the sheath, and that was found under Maddie Mogan, or next to Maddie Mogan's body. And then we learned about additional cell phone video, his own pictures, his internet searches, buying Amazon, trying to buy another sheath, just the sheath, not the knife. I mean, all those things were like wow moments in so to speak, in regards to some of the evidence in this case.
Yeah, we don't even know if that would have been permitted, right? Now that it's leaked, who knows if that would even been, produced in the trial. So
Peter's got a question: is do you think he will speak tomorrow, Joe and Mike? I think the only things we're going to hear out of him is him pleading guilty. That's it. I don't think he's going to say another word.
I I kind of, I mean, he pled guilty. I kind of want a little closure for the family. So I would, I would like for him to allocute and address, hopefully, the family. I mean, I'm not, this guy's a psychopath. I don't think he's going to apologize. I don't know if he will, but I think for the family, I would like for him to address the court and perhaps say why he did this and hopefully apologize, but who knows?
Well, I could tell you. Well, you used, I don't know if you realize or not, but you used the answer to today's quiz question. Allocute. That was today's quiz question, specifically geared towards this incident that was going on. So if you haven't done the quiz yet, that's the answer to your question. Well, before we came on, I was looking at it. Fox News, Mike Ruiz, who I've done a lot of interviews with, he had posted an article about, he said that there's a source that says that he will not be required to talk about the motive behind the case. It was a question I asked last night on Twitter, or X, or whatever we call it nowadays, but about, is there anything written into it for the motive behind it? Because listen, from the public's point of view, we think we have the right to know, but we don't. Right? But I hope the family gets to hear something.
Yeah, you think that could be part of the plea deal, that he has to address the court to, to accept this deal? That would be, cool if they can compel him to make a statement, hopefully something good, not insane.
I think that would have to be written into the deal, right? I mean, I think
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
that would be would be interesting. Not that, Mickey, thank you very much. Says, will Judge Hippler make him give an allocution? I don't know if the judge will do so. I mean, listen, the judge is one of these guys who speaks softly and carries a big stick, right? I think the family definitely deserves to know a little bit about why he did this, what was the reasoning behind it. I believe that the family is the only ones that have the right to know. The public, we just hope that we can find out, because many of us have been following this case and have been scratching our heads about the reason why he does this. But there is no way that you can make him talk about exactly what he did and why he did it, unless it's part of the deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, think about some of the things that we're not going to have answers to. So the forensic genetics genealogy on genetic genealogy on this. Remember that was part of the defense's thing, saying there's no way they did this right. They used a different system. This was under fire, right? So they had gotten his DNA and they traced it back to the father, not his DNA, but they got the father's DNA. They traced it back to him. They said that they accused the FBI of using, I believe, a website that is not law enforcement open to law enforcement. And I think that would have been a big thing on the table too, which I think that weighs in the defense's decision. There's a couple of things. Let's talk about the genetic genealogy. I'm going to have Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick on tonight at 6 p.m. And she's one of the pioneers of genetic genealogy. And I'm going to try to ask her that question, see if she can answer it. But I believe this was one of the things that was weighing on the prosecutor's mind. Where did they do this the right way? Because basically,
Sure.
it's the wild, wild west.
Yeah, I'm sure, right? They're going to bring their expert. The defense would have brought in their expert to challenge, the DNA genealogy recovered. So, yeah, it would have been a back and forth. So, you know what? It would have been interesting to watch a trial for sure, because we learned so much, right? We watched the Karen Reed trial. We learned so much from these experts, and unfortunately, the public also learned so much about how incompetent some police officers and investigators are when they're testifying, so I would have loved to have seen the detectives in this case testify and the experts, just for my own selfish reasons.
No, I think that you're right on that. That was definitely something that I was looking forward to because I thought that this was going to be like one of the real tests of genetic genealogy, and we know that this is the future. So I thought that this was going to be a great opportunity to get this in there because if you can get it in now in the court, then it kind of opens up the entire thing to this because genetic genealogy is the future here for specifically cold cases and murder. So I was hoping for that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just looking at the chat. When I'm looking that way, I'm looking at the chat.
Yeah, me
Hi,
too. So
hi, Pokemon.
Rick
Pokemon.
Black says, "Do you think he'll ever give an interview and tell the truth?" I'm sure he's going to have the people lining up to do interviews with him in prison. Will he tell the truth? I don't know. I mean, listen, if you look at some of the other serial killers like, BTK and, oh God, what was who was the guy that he was following in the leaks that came out with Kohberger? Oh my God, I can't believe I forgot his name. The guy from Florida that they executed.
Oh, I can't think of it.
Anyway, yeah, him. No, whatever his name was, I can't remember. The lawyer, the ex-lawyer who was killed the girls at the sorority house.
Hi, Sheila. Hi,
You know,
Afton.
he's he's going to give interviews, but I don't know if he'll ever tell the truth. Those guys strung the death penalty case along for a long time, saying I'll give you more information on things. So it's a way of manipulating people and things too. I was looking forward to the cell phone experts fighting, right? Because this would have been one of those first cases where they have tracked somebody in and around the neighborhoods. I was looking forward to that too. Once again, get that into court. Let's get it okayed and then use it widely.
Yeah, yeah. Again, they're going to bring their witness, and they're going to bring someone else challenge. Yeah, it's always good. It's a good chess game. And who do you believe? So again, great for our audience to learn from. I think a lot of people learn from these trials. So it was taken away from us with this plea deal. So
Do we know what time the hearing is tomorrow? I do not know, but I would say whatever. I don't know if Idaho is what time frame is it, Pacific or Central, but I would probably say 9 o'clock. Whatever that time zone is. Maybe somebody can find out for us and put it in the chat. I'd appreciate that. I mean, we had a garbage can cover, right? Well, we had a California versus Greenwood, where they took his garbage, they found, clothes in it and whatever. We don't know. I shouldn't say clothes. They found stuff in the bags. We don't know exactly what was found in those bags. Now there's a question like, do we find out any of these things ever? And I don't think we get the answers to a lot of things.
yeah, it would have been interesting to see what kind of other evidence would have been produced that we never even heard of, to seal the deal for this guy. I'm assuming it's so overwhelming. That's why they took the plea deal, and the defense just said we can't win this. So
Yeah, I mean, they might have gotten him out of the death penalty part, but I don't think they would have gotten him out of life in prison in that respect, because the death penalty is a very touchy subject, and a lot of people, who don't support it. And I think right now, I think there's more people that don't support it than support it. And I think that that weighed heavily on the decision that was done by the district attorney. And like I said, just to recap, I'm all for the plea deal. I really am in this case. I think it helps the family in the long run.
Like, I don't know how
So
much experience the prosecutor has, but maybe they've seen this movie before. Even if they win the case, they know, like you said, it's going to be a challenge to get the death penalty. Right? They're going to go through the mitigating phase. Oh, they were going to go through the mitigating phase, and they were supposedly going to have witnesses to testify for Kohberger that they've identified. And then those people said, yeah, we don't want to do that because they don't want the fallout, of like whatever, providing background information or character information for Kohberger. So yeah, that would have been that would have been interesting. So I think they think that they were probably afraid that if they go to the mitigation phase, that they probably wouldn't have gotten the death penalty anyway, and then it would have gone through so many different appeal processes. And at the end of the day, they probably would have just got prison time and not the death penalty. Maybe that's why they made this decision.
yeah, true crime data expert Ted Bundy. Thank you. I cannot believe I
How could
couldn't.
we forget that guy?
Yeah, well, it's easy because you got a million things going on in your head. I saw Poke Mom had put out, I think it was, I'm looking for the tweet, 1 p.m., 10 p.m. Thank you, Gizela, 10 a.m. Pacific time. That'd be 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's where everybody would be plugging that in. Hey, listen, if this goes through tomorrow, he's conceding guilt. He's saying to everybody, I did it. So all of his supporters are going to just have to deal with that. I know. I mean, I was trying to, follow the conversation on X, and, I'm just kind of shaking my head. There's nobody that's holding a gun to his head. He's taken this all on his own because I think he was calling the shots. Basically, I mean, he seems to be somebody who likes to have control. But for him to accept 4 life sentences with no chance of an appeal ever, I think he's kind of saying, "You got me."
Yeah. Yeah, he's a coward. Like I said, he's a coward. Um, the evidence must have been overwhelming. He probably believed he was going to get the death penalty. He didn't want to get executed like he executed these victims. He's a bad guy. He's a bad guy, and he should have got. I feel. I know you don't agree, but I feel he should have got the death penalty. That's just me.
Well, listen, I'm not saying that if they convicted him, I would be upset that he got the death penalty. Don't get me
Right.
wrong, but I
Right.
just
Right.
think that makes the case a lot easier on the families, because what I think a lot of times we fail to realize as individuals in some of these things, or outsiders looking in, the families are going to go through a tremendous amount of trauma in regards to this, and this is going to be perpetrated on them for decades. At least they can kind of close this chapter and then try to get some healing. Nothing's ever going to fix this, but I think a long drawn out affair and appeal after appeal would be absolutely devastating to the
Torture.
family.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Listen, these guys, the prosecution and the defense made the decision. I mean, we're just police officers. These guys are lawyers, so and a lot of experience, and the judge has to accept it. So I guess they know better than us. I don't know.
Yep. Snaggle Mama, thank you for gifting that membership. If you're just joining us now, over 307 people are watching this live. Retired NYPD Detective Mike Alcazar, a buddy of mine. We're just discussing some of the issues that we thought that could be a reason for the appeal. Excuse me, reason for the plea deal in this case. Digital evidence, Mike. I mean, I call this the forensic horseman, right? Cell phone records, internet records, and video surveillance. This case had all of them. Circumstantial evidence, but it had all of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, they had everything. I guess, like I said, it's a lot of information, a lot of evidence, and I think he just got scared. So it would have been a little satisfying to watch all that presented in the trial. Again, for my own selfish reasons, but you know, it saved that state a lot of money, and maybe again, they'll never admit it. Maybe that was the goal. They just didn't want to spend all that money for a trial, and you know, it's a win for them. So not a
Yeah,
win
and
for
the
the
appeals.
family. I mean, unless the family's okay, some of the family's okay with no death penalty, but it's a win, I guess.
Well, in March 2025, the state of Idaho signed in firing squad as their main way of executing people. I mean, I think that kind of weighed heavily on his mind too, as he's sitting in his jail cell thinking about this.
Yeah, I think the reason they mainly go for the firing squad because there's been a lot of issues with lethal injection, and they couldn't get that cocktail produced. So, I mean, I wouldn't want either.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like I said, I mean, you got people also have to remember too. There is nothing until he stands up in court and says, "I plead guilty." I mean, this. Who knows what could happen tomorrow if tomorrow is even the day that this is allegedly supposed to happen? Because from what we hear, he's supposed to have this court appearance tomorrow. We're all assuming that he's going to plead guilty, and then there'll be sentencing according to the district attorney at the end of the month. So, I mean, and the sentence has already been set. He's going to get 4 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole or appeals. So it's kind of a done deal in that respect.
Yeah, yeah, that's enough. That's enough.
I mean, if you just think about this, right? Reasons why people say, well, what are the reasons? Death penalty, high cost of the case, appeals, crime scene issues, Mike. You and I have been, or at least I know I have been very outspoken about some of the crime scene issues that happen in this case. And, you know, did it help with the decision for the district attorney? It might have, right? I mean, we saw some issues about, you know, shutting the crime scene down, reopening it with, you know, and then giving out furniture during an active crime scene. Things that, Mike, I have never seen before in a criminal investigation. And that would be, you know, that would be part of a major issue.
It still had to be pretty solid an investigation for the defense to accept this. I'm sure they would have challenged it, and they would
Yeah,
have tried to make it, you know, inept, and they're not professional, but it was probably still enough to convince the defense that they were going to lose. And also accepting the
I
plea
agree.
deal is, like you said, another part of it's not re-traumatizing the family of going through this trial. And you know, I saw somewhere that you know the family they will see photographs of the victims, you know, when they're showing it to the jury. So you know, who wants to see that? Who wants to be re-traumatized with that? Or again, traumatize the jurors will have to see that homicide scene and you know, and have MEs talk about the stab wounds and how this happened. It's going to be very graphic. So that's a lot of things that's probably good that we're saving people from seeing because of this plea deal. I mean, you and me, we've seen 10 million of them. We're so numb to all these, you know, these crime scene photos, but for regular civilians, it could be pretty traumatic, and it will stay with them for the rest of their lives. So,
Yeah, and I think the age has something to do with the victims too, in regards
oh
to
yeah,
that, especially with the fact that, you know, many people send their kids off to college, you know,
forget about it.
and have to worry about those kind of things. But I mean, and even is going down my list. So we talk about, you know, possible crime scene issues, cell phone technology. We were ready for this big battle, right? There was a guy, I think his first name was Cy. I forgot his last name. You know, this big battle between the FBI expert and the defense's expert on the cell phone data and how they tracked this white um Elantra or this white car around around the thing, the summonses. I mean, Mike, when you think about it, this case was pretty textbook. I think, you know, all in all, the cops did a really good job, including, you know, working with the state police and the FBI. I think it showed a lot of cooperation and coordination. And I think that also plays a role into, like you said, why the defense is saying this is not good.
Yeah, yeah. And in hindsight, now that we see what they've done, they did seem to do a pretty good investigation. I do remember early on the investigation that didn't they say that it was safe for the community even while he was still out there, especially and again, we said that that's because it's a college community. They want business as usual. Again, the driving force is money. you're saying it's safe for the community, and he was in the community. He still was out there. So I thought that was a little bit silly on their part.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's a couple of mistakes that were made, of course, but I don't think that would have, like you said before, I don't think that would have changed the outcome. But you know what? There are lessons learned for other police departments to come out. That's one of the things I always look at, right? When they have the press conference and the police say, is there a threat to the public, or they don't even mention it, and usually when they don't mention it, they have an idea of who the suspect is and what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not that Mickey, thank you very much again, said, would they have consulted with the two surviving victims too? And will documents get released now, asking for our grizzly friends? Okay, so let's couple of questions in here. Absolutely, the two victims that didn't happen, right? They were actually witnesses. One of them is, that was another one, right? So they actually, the witnesses were going to be part of this. So we had eyewitnesses. They would have definitely been told about what's going on, specifically about it. And those people got dragged through the mud, right? Like, how did you not know? I mean, people were really mean to them in regards to that. Will documents get released? No, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to hear the answers to many of these questions we have and what evidence was actually there. We're never going to see the fight between, I said, the experts on the cell phone and, of course, the investigative genetic genealogy, because it would have been good to get that admitted into court, because I think it would have helped out even more cases down the road.
I mean, there's always a possibility that these surviving victims can do a tell-all on everything that's happened, and not to sound cold or anything, but they could definitely make money from this experience. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but there's definitely that possibility, right? There's two surviving witnesses that can tell, even if it's just to tell the story to preserve the legacy of the victims and say from their point of view, like what a monster this guy Kohberger was, because now we're not going to see it and we might not see this evidence. So,
I mean, and you think about some of the people that were kind of get dragged into this, Dr. Catherine Ramsland, who was this professor at
oh yeah,
DeSales. I mean, she experienced a lot of nonsense about this case too. Like I said, the two surviving victims, a lot of people, the public, especially on social media, was not fair to many of these people in this case. So they get a reprieve, and I hope they get a little bit of calmness now that this is over. Danny May says, "Hey, True Crime with the Sarge, I'm here to support you in case you become shy or find yourself at a loss for words." Yeah, I've been accused of many things. Those aren't one or two of them. That's for sure. But
I'm shy. I'm shy.
yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Shy.
Hey, Murder Bookshelf. We were hanging out with her, right?
Yes.
And people don't believe me when I say I'm introverted. I was so introverted that day. You guys were talking. I feel like I was just, being a fan of you guys. So,
Well, if people don't know what we're talking about, Mike and I had a meet and greet out in Allentown area in Pennsylvania at a Starbucks, and Jill and her friend came out, and we had some coffee and donuts and stuff like that. We actually had we talked for about 2 hours. We're gonna do something else. We're gonna do another one down the road sometime. Maybe at that. I want to go to that Skinny Joey's cheesesteak place in Philadelphia.
never heard of it. Is it good?
Yeah, yeah. He's an ex mobster that opened up a cheesecake.
Oh yeah, let's
a
support him.
cheesesteak place. A cheesesteak. But yeah, all for the food. Think about see, the video surveillance, right? I mean, the leaks show the car coming back that night. There's an audio of some different things. I mean, Mike, this case had everything. It had video surveillance, cell phone records, internet records, eyewitnesses, DNA. Yeah, I think, and people are asking, like, why would you take a plea? Well, I think the evidence is kind of it's there.
Yeah, hey, listen, somebody's going to do a nice documentary about this, and hopefully they do a good job showcasing all the information, all the evidence that we'll never see, witness accounts. So, they're lining up right now, trying to talk to witnesses, surviving victims, family members, if they haven't done so already. They're probably going to try to talk to Kohberger, but he ain't gonna make any money of it. And if he does, which I don't think is gonna
He
happen,
can't. Yeah.
yeah, any kind of, if he gets anything, I heard they're gonna go after him. So anything he gets in prison, the family's gonna get it, whatever peanuts he's getting over there. So
Yeah. Well, like I said, this isn't done until he does it tomorrow or whenever he's going to do it. So, I mean, that's the bottom line here. But, you know, folks, until he stands up in court and says, "I did it. I'm guilty. I'm taking my punishment and I'm walking out the door," this all means nothing, right? I mean, could he change his mind at the last minute? Yeah, of course he can. I don't think he will, but I think now that it's been widely reported through different sources that this is going on, including family members. So, I mean, I would say that this is definitely legit. So I know some people might be questioning that, this is not even legit, but we'll have to see tomorrow what happens.
yeah, I'm sure administratively he's already agreed to it. I'm sure he's signed the documents, and tomorrow is just a formality. So
And you know what? He could be taking this plea and protecting, other interests in respect about, who was his phone records going back to, who did he call, what did they know, when did they know it? I mean, there's all kinds of questions that need to be done. And yes, just me put out there that Chris Watts said nothing. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a good possibility he does say nothing. Uh, this guy's still going to get his marriage proposals in prison. He's getting them before. He'll get them again. That's a whole other thing. But Mike, here's a question for you. When the leaks first came out about the Dateline show, and the Judge Hippler stated that he basically told the prosecutor, find out who leaked this, or I'm going to put a special prosecutor in here. Do you think that investigation dies now?
I I hope not. I hope they find out who leaked that information and prosecute them. I mean, I don't know. They took this plea deal. Maybe they don't want to put any more money into that investigation. I hope they find out, because that could have ruined this trial if it went to trial. So I hope they find out who that was.
Well, I can tell you right now from experience, and Mike, you can back this up. The NYPD wouldn't quit on they wouldn't care that the guy took a plea. They would still be investigating that to the nth degree about who leaked it out. There's no question in my mind.
No, 100%. Yeah, our old NYPD. I don't know about this NYPD, but I know our old NYPD would have definitely, under Kelly, they would have found that person,
oh my God,
prosecuted them. If it was a cop, they'd be fired.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Under Ray Kelly specifically, I mean, he ran the Iron Curtain. I mean, there's nothing that came out of that play, and we didn't have leaks. And I mean, you know what? They still don't really have leaks, even as kind of laissez-faire. I see the department now, but there is really few leaks. But like I said, I hope that they continue to investigate the leaks on who did that, because it's detrimental to law enforcement. It's detrimental to the prosecution's case, and it's also detrimental to due process. And I'm a due process guy. I'm not a Bryan Kohberger under the prison guy. I'm not a free Bryan Kohberger guy. I'm a due process guy. I want to make sure that the prosecution, the police department does what they write, because that affects every one of us. And it's an important aspect to keep that in mind as we go through these cases. And sometimes, Mike, that gets lost in the shuffle with people in the true crime community sometimes.
Yeah. Once this case is over, everyone forgets about that. No one's following up on that. Hopefully they are. Hopefully they will. Hopefully the judge says, yeah, find out who did that. So,
yeah. And there's going to be another one coming out, because James Patterson has a book coming out, and I think it's coming out this month, about the case. And in one of the descriptions, it basically says, inside information from the police department. I think it has in there. It doesn't actually say those words. It says something different, but that's going to be another investigation, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, sources inform me.
Yeah, you can't have that. You just can't. I mean, as much as some of the cops maybe think it's going to be helpful. And Mike, I think you and I we did a roll call on this when this first came out about the leaks, and I think we both were in agreement in saying that this only helped the prosecution. That's why the judge went after the prosecutor and said, this is on your side. You fix it. because everything that all the evidence that was released was was just damaging to the defense.
Yeah, I guess. I guess. I mean, I don't know if that could have backfired in the prosecution too, right? Because again, it could have influenced a lot of the jury population over there, and then it'll be harder to get select jurors. So, it's pretty silly.
Yeah, no, I mean, do you think they would have been able to get a jury together? They wanted to get them together in like a week. Do you think they would have been able to get a death penalty qualified jury in a week?
Yeah, I think they would have. You've been a juror. People will say the right things.
Unfortunately,
People aren't stupid. They want to be on that jury. They're gonna lie. They're gonna say whatever has to get them on that jury. Unlike except for us, right? You and me and every cop on the planet, we don't want to be part of a jury, so we tell the truth, right? But
and
there's
even then, it doesn't
professional
help.
jurors out there, and they want to be in it. They want to be selected. They want to see justice, or they have no lives. Who knows? Not all of them are like that, but there are definitely professional jurors that want to be selected for a high profile case like that. Listen, it could be profitable, right? Look at the jurors in the Karen Reed case. You don't tell me those guys are signing book deals right now, So, a lot of things motivate people to be in a jury.
Well, it could be for sure. I mean, I try to get out of jury duty every time I get it.
You and me both. You and me
And
both.
I always seem to get stuck and lose a whole day. And then at the end of the day, the judge is asking, why is this guy even here? And I'm like, I've been trying to tell you that since 8 o'clock this morning.
Did you told that story on this?
I think so, yeah. If not, the quick story is about a year ago, I get jury duty. I write out the form. I tell them the reason why I shouldn't be chosen. It didn't happen. It doesn't. I show up to court. I'm there. I go first minute. I go up there and I tell them, what I did for a living. Didn't matter. Tell me to sit down. Basically, dismissed me. So I sat down, and then the judge is asking questions about because it was actually a felony assault on a police officer. And every time he says, "Did anybody think?" and I'm just raising my hand every time. So after a while, the judge is just looking at me like every time, like, "Why does this guy keep on raising his hand?" And when I finally went into at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I went in there and he's like, dude, like, what's your story? And I'm trying, and I told him, and then he looked at the prosecutor and said, why is this guy still here? Like, what are we doing? I'm like, Judge, I've been trying to tell people this since 9 o'clock this morning. It just, nobody wants me on their jury.
I'd want you in my jury.
Well, I don't know, Mike. That might not be too good for you either sometimes.
Pokemon says she loves doing jury duty. So, and I get it. Listen,
it's very interesting. Yeah, it's 100%. Very interesting.
Our true crime community, probably 75% want to be in a good case. I get it. It's different for us because we've testified in thousands of cases, hundreds of cases, not thousands, hundreds of cases. We've been there 10 million times and we've seen that movie before and we're over it. So,
well, like I said, I mean, it's an admission of guilt. That's what we're looking for. He's conceding to the guilt. He's going to take a rap allegedly for 4 murders. I mean, I don't know how anybody can still think that this guy is innocent and that he's being forced to do this. This decision is made by the defendant, not made by his defense.
You know what it is, Joe? It's because of all the televised cases and the corruption scandals in the police department and evidence being planted. And, they probably think that sheath was planted, in that crime scene, in that house, sadly. So there's a lot of people that have doubt and they're in love with this guy. I don't know. There's a lot of wackadoodles out there. So.
Well, I mean, it's just par for the course. Listen, we should never confuse what happened in the Karen Reed case, and I'm talking about the public specifically. Never confuse what happened in the Karen Reed case between the prosecution and the lack of a proper police investigation than to any other case. I mean, it just shouldn't. That case is just one for the textbooks about what not to do. It's as simple as that. And not every case goes that way, for sure. I mean, do mistakes get made? Yeah, cops are human. But this case was tight.
We're only talking from our experience with the NYPD, right? And from all our cases and Joe's supervised, it's always been good detective work, good crime scene processing. Now, we don't know what's happening in these little smaller departments like Canton or anywhere else, right? What kind of training they're getting, what kind of crime scene processing they do. So I'm not going to defend everybody. But yeah, 100%. People shouldn't base their decisions, especially if they're in the jury, but there's going to be a segment of that jury population that's always going to be in their back of their minds. Oh, remember that case? And that cop did this and they did that. And they used red Solo cup and that thing.
This was actually made out of that melamine. It's actually pretty good. You can microwave this, I think, or put it in the dishwasher, but I don't know about microwaving it. But you know, it's just something to think about, like how much the true crime community is going to affect juries down the road. This is something that I've been discussing with other people. I mean, you look at the Bryan Kohberger case. I don't think that this would have been a spectacle like we saw with Karen Reed, but it would have had some of that element to it. But it's true crime community is going to affect jury pools down the road.
For sure. For sure. With the access to live trials, people are going to get more educated, right? They're going to learn from all our testimony, from lawyer testimony, from shows like us, Defense Diaries, who I love to troll.
Gizla, the Grizzly True Crime.
Grizzly True Crime, Gizla, 100%. 100%, you know? So, yeah, we learn a lot. I learn a lot watching Gizla, you know, and when she's discussing a case. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes if I'm preparing for an interview on a case, I watch Gizla's show. I watch Defense Diaries. I watch people that are like, what are they saying? Maybe I'll sound smarter when I do my interview. So
There's Gizla. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, it's short, concise, and I always say she's got the best research team, which I think is just her. So, I don't know how she does it. I've done a couple of solo shows. It's just it's very daunting.
I watch her
But
get like documents, her, I don't know who's doing it for her viewers. I was like, how did it get this? They're sending it to her. That's one. I forget what the case was, but I definitely looked at some of the documents that she received before it was made public. I was like, oh, that's good stuff.
yeah, what's one thing about Mike and I think someone posted it in the thing. We have made a lot of friends on the internet here doing this on YouTube, and they've helped support me in the show, and I support them any way I can.
Well,
But
Joe has made a lot of friends. I just troll the channels, and I don't know. I don't think I'm making friends. I think I'm antagonizing the chat, and I do enjoy.
Hey, listen, comments are good for the show. The algorithm
100%.
loves the comments.
100%.
So, Mike, we have 455 people watching us now.
What?
About 48 minutes. Yeah,
Insane. How did that happen?
I don't know. It must be because of my new hairstyle that I got.
Wow, that's cool. In the middle of the day, impromptu.
Yeah, totally impromptu. Like I said, for those, I just gifted 5 memberships out there to 5 different people.
Nice.
Tonight, 6 p.m., I'm going to have Colleen Fitzpatrick. I rarely do 2 shows in one day, but this was, I thought, an important impromptu kind of show to do this. And then, so hang on a second. Afton says, Mike, you're welcome to troll all the channels where I have a wrench. and uses it lightly.
I too have a wrench at Defense Diaries.
There you go. He's a dangerous man with a wrench.
I don't know why they
final
gave me a
thoughts.
wrench. You're giving the wrong guy a wrench.
Final thoughts, Mike. What do you think happens tomorrow? Does he take the plea like they're alleging?
This guy is such a psychopath and a narcissist. I think he's going to make a statement. I hope it's a statement that will provide closure for the family, even if it's rehearsed and fake, because this guy's a psychopath. He doesn't feel the emotions. He knows what's the saying? He knows the lyrics, but he doesn't hear the music. So even if it's fake, hopefully he provides some kind of closure for the victims of the family.
Yeah, I hope if he does make a statement, that the statement is sincere, and like I said, he doesn't say something that's self-serving.
Yeah.
If he's going to do that, just say I'm pleading guilty and walk out. That's don't torture people at this stage of the game. But we've seen that happen too, unfortunately, in other cases. Viv was in the room. I haven't seen Viv. I hope you're doing well, Viv.
Hi,
Uh,
Viv.
you know,
Hi,
I think
Sarah.
I think he ultimately takes the plea. I think he takes the four things and goes away. And I think the public is going to feel slighted in regards to unanswered questions. And I understand that, but there's a couple of things that I'd like to know myself, but I also wanted to see some of this new technology really get into the courtroom and be accepted for future cases. I think that's a big miss for a lot of things. And listen, Rex Sherman case is going to have some of those same things in it because the forensic genetic genealogy is in there, the new technology about identifying things, cell phone technology. So we're going to see that come out of the New York case. But I think that would have been good. This would have been a good uh, presser, not presser. This would have been a good first part to see if how far we could take this evidence because I think it is the future.
Yes, sir.
All righty, folks. Listen, 452 people we topped that at. I really appreciate you guys coming out on an impromptu thing. If you can come over tonight at 6 p.m., if you're not busy or you don't have dinner, or maybe you can catch the replay, we're going to be talking to one of the pioneers of investigative genetic genealogy, Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick. So, folks, thank you for joining us. Mike, you hang on one second. Everybody, you have a great night. Hopefully, I'll see you in a couple hours. Have a good one.
Bye, everybody. Thank